So the Jon Ossoff defeat today, one of the funniest instances of liberal tears that you'll see nowadays. I don't know how much longer it's going to go on. They started kind of getting used to it, so the reaction isn't as surprised as it used to be. It used to be, you'd watch them and they'd be like basically with their, the Wall Street hands, like, oh my God, I can't believe I fucking wasted all my money on, asbestos stocks or something. Yeah, that's the Democratic Party today. It couldn't have happened to a better party. I don't care about the candidates that did win, because in my opinion, they weren't that good anyway. These Republicans, it just shows, it's too bad that it would have been, a good thing that if some actual like quality candidates had been elected, that would have been great. But the fact is that the Democrats lost in South Carolina, a seat that was very much expected to stay Republican anyway. And they lost in Georgia, a seat that they basically invested a king's ransom in order to flip. And they didn't come nearly as close as they thought they would. And it speaks to a real problem that the Democrats just can't seem to crack. How do I communicate how do I communicate with and earn the trust of voters that in reality, in my own mind, I have complete contempt for and could hardly stand being in the same room with? That's what the Democratic Party is dealing with now. The Georgia 6th congressional district is both rural and suburban, so it is a little bit of a tough nut to crack in terms of how to really strategize for it. But look, if you go to rural areas of the country and you basically behave like you're smarter than them and that you have all the solutions, oftentimes if they don't like those solutions, or they don't know or they think that the problem you're trying to solve is not really a problem, they just ignore you and choose something else. And in this case, they chose Karen Handel. And what's going to be funny is that from now on, none of these races, okay, you saw, I think, a total of 4 or 5 races that were really, well, there were 4 that were already contested. And in each of the 4, but especially in a couple of them, they were really interested. And then once the race was settled, they basically ditched it. They're like, fuck this. This isn't a real indicator. What they kept saying was that Donald Trump was being voted on in a referendum with every single one of these special elections. Never mind the fact that you don't referendum anybody in one congressional district in one state which he won heavily. Even if he would have lost that county today, he won Georgia by a massive margin in November. So these Democrats can whine all they want. I've been looking at Tom Perez and a bunch of these other leaders, their Twitter pages and whatnot. They have really bitten up the poison apple here of political correctness and hatred of the poor rural white voter. Those people are not going to come back if they were Democrat, which a lot of them were at one point, especially some of the older ones. They're done with the party. It doesn't offer them anything. So why do you campaign there? Why do you invest? Why do you throw money into the fucking toilet and not even give people any reason to shop at your store? And that gets me to another thing. How can you keep claiming that single congressional districts in states that you lost by major margins are really a barometer of the way the country is feeling? You glance at some of these races. One of them was in, in Kansas, where you claim that there was a major gap closed by, having a margin of defeat that was like 6 points or something. You claim that that was a major breakthrough. It's not a major breakthrough unless you win. The same goes for the Georgia congressional district. The same goes for the Montana district, which that they got creamed. They pulled out all the stops, the Bernie Sanders bullshit. They got destroyed. So every single race can't be a barometer and a bellwether of where the country's going to go, whether there's going to be a blue wave or whatever. There's not going to be a blue wave if you keep it up the way it is. Because the longer he stays in power and the more stable he appears, the more people that are, older, more experienced people, retirees, they're just going to show up at the voting booth and say, hey, I think that these guys are kind of the better ones. And the other party is basically led by some kook who ran around and didn't do anything for 20, 30 years. And that's basically how the left is. They're that one candidate that they're like, why can't this appraiser really see the value in me? That's because you don't have any value. You don't have any value. Just like this Jon Ossoff didn't have any value. So sit tight, start watching this, and see it through to the end.
Across the country, and for people around the world. This small community in Georgia, which has become the epicenter of politics, sometimes to my chagrin, for months now. And it's had nothing to do with me. It never has. It's about you. It's about an extraordinary community at an extraordinary moment in history. The first opportunity in this country to make a statement about values that can still unite people. At a time when politics has been dominated by fear and hatred and scapegoating and division, this community stood up. Women in this community stood up.
So what you're watching there, believe it or not, is the concession speech for the Georgia congressional district number 6. Jon Ossoff, who just lost, becoming one of 4 congressional special elections that the Democrats have lost so far since last year's presidential election and congressional elections. And this video is kind of going to be a look at this race and a look forward at what's going to be happening. So let's get some of the easy stuff out of the way. Number 1, I'm not even going to show the speech of Ossoff's opponent, the winner, Karen Handel. I don't care that Karen Handel won. I don't really see anything special about her. I saw her on stage debating, and this is no Georgia peach. Let me put it that way. She's going to be a mediocre Republican. She's not going to join the Freedom Caucus. She's not going to do the courageous things that it takes in order to bring our country back to a free market, personal liberty system where people can have the opportunity to grow their business and help the communities that they live in on their own terms. And I think Karen Handel's victory is not really special for anybody except for perhaps some of her, community in Georgia and, average run-of-the-mill conservatives like Hugh Hewitt. I don't care that she's going to be in Congress. So far as I'm concerned, the seat could have remained vacant and I wouldn't have cared. Although, technically everybody should be represented in Congress. But then again, if you're living in some of these cities like Houston and Detroit, how's that working out? You have people representing you in Congress that haven't done shit in decades. So in my opinion, it doesn't matter either way. You're basically saving salary, federal money, but let's say. I would have much rather there had been somebody that was, a real principled person, and Karen Handel just is not that. Second of all, Jon Ossoff was called just a few weeks ago. Let's see if I can find it.
They're good people. He comes from a good tree. He's smart, he's gifted, and he will look out for all of the people in this district and for all of the people in Georgia and the people all across our nation. I've been there. And I met every president since President Kennedy. And I tell you, President Kennedy was young, smart, and gifted. Jon Ossoff was young, smart, and gifted.
So there you have it. I was going to bring you a Free Beacon article, but there you have it. Representative John Lewis, who was basically Ossoff's mentor. Well, let's just put it this way: Ossoff was Lewis's stooge. Compares Ossoff to JFK. As of tonight, his career has been assassinated like JFK. He will no longer be anything more than a blip on the rear view mirror, basically like some sort of a traffic cone that was run over by a runaway truck. That's Jon Ossoff from now on. He will never be. He will forever be the symbol of the person who was inflated by massive investment of money and resources, all for nothing. This was somebody who he could have won this race. I think was it 2 months ago already. He could. I think he could have won this race in April, and he was so close. He got to 48%, and he couldn't make it. And that was the moment most people knew that this was the last anybody would ever give a shit about this guy. And they managed to hold on for another 2 months, bullshitting the voters into thinking that Jon Ossoff was going to win this district. Let me tell you something. There's only so much during a special election you can actually make an impact on voters. People want to go back to actually doing the things that they do in everyday life. And they don't want their whole fucking lives revolving around elections and special elections and by-elections, as they call them in England, and referendums and issue votes and whatever. They want to do their fucking jobs and go about their business. And this Jon Ossoff, the Republicans are not the people who made this into a national referendum type of issue of a race. They didn't make it into, and like I said, I don't give a fuck about the Republican candidate, and I don't support her either. If I was living in this district, it would have really taken some sort of like magic wand or a lot of liquor to get me to go vote for either of these clowns. Okay, so she's probably the classic example of somebody that has caused many realistic people to not want to join either party. And yet he bungled this race to such an extent that he lost the race by a worse margin than Clinton lost to Donald Trump during the election. So, to summarize point 2, Jon Ossoff's political career is fucking toast. Nobody is going to want to resurrect rerun this guy who had $22 million to spend on a congressional race in a suburban Georgia district and couldn't win it against an opponent who was, barely average. Karen Handel. Karen Handel, I'm not going to say that she's an idiot, but she was definitely not like she was not the best opponent that Ossoff could have had. Fact is that she got only 18% in the primary, and I don't care if there were tons of other primary competitors on the GOP side. She got only 18%, so it's not like she blew people away. Ossoff got 48% of the primary. Today, he managed to get 47.5%, meaning that in terms of vote share, he's technically gone down. Okay, so that brings us to our third point, which is that the sentence I just said doesn't really matter. That's the first bit of fake news you're going to hear. You're going to hear a lot about how Ossoff performed better than the average candidate in the same district for a Democrat and whatnot. I'll show you that, just like in every other post-election video that I'll do for these congressional districts at least, it's all bullshit. It doesn't really make a difference. Okay, what are we looking at here? We're looking at the results from 2012. Here, let me scroll down through today. Okay, sorry it's a little long, but when people mention percentages and how somebody had like a big, dip or climb or whatever, just take a look at this, okay? In 2010, Tom Price, the guy who's now Secretary of Health and Human Services, who was a Republican candidate, won 99.91% in this race because there was nobody else running except for some Sean Greenberg guy. The next race, he won 189,000. Okay, and he won 64.51%. That's actually just a dip of about 10,000 people, less than 10,000. So he won 64 to 35. So okay, you could though. What are you going to say? That's a huge dip. Yeah, 10,000 people. Maybe that's a major dip. But now so relative. When you have like an actual opponent compared to some guy with a bait store sign, yeah, you're going to get a dip because then you actually have somebody to compete against. That's how it works. With competition, you get a smaller share. Okay, for all of you Democrats in basic economics, when you have competition in a market, the participants will have smaller shares as opposed to a situation where there would be only one option in play. Okay? So therefore, as opposed to 2010, when there were less than 200,000 votes, in 2012, when there were two choices, there were almost 300,000 votes. So this isn't a sign that people got pissed at Tom Price. It's a sign that people had a choice between Tom Price and somebody else. Then 2014. Well, what's this? Is this a dip or a climb? Because Tom Price won 66% as opposed to 64% from 2012. But he only won 139,000 votes compared to 189,000 in 2012. So what is this, a huge dip? No, it's not a huge dip, you fucking morons. The Republicans didn't lose a lot of supporters between 2012 and 2014. The fact of the matter is, and you can look at race after race, district by district, there's less people who will take the fucking day off for a midterm election than there are for a presidential election, okay? And this repeats itself, okay? In 2016, now suddenly there's over more than 325,000 voters, and yet Tom Price's vote share went down to 61%, okay? But the number of voters went up to 200,000. So 70,000 more people voted in 2016 for Tom Price than they did for him in 2014. Okay, now let's rewind. Tom Price was a previous occupant of this seat, and he never experienced some sort of dramatic, drop in support. It's just that people don't want to go fucking vote every time for the same person. You know, some people have things to do with their lives. So in 2016, Tom Price climbed over 326,000 voters. Okay. Now let's look at the special election. 192,000 people voted in the primary. Okay, so that's, look at that. That's over 130,000 people less than during the election in November. And today, 254,000 people voted for Karen Handel and Jon Ossoff. So what's the difference here? The difference is turnout, okay? It has nothing to do with voter enthusiasm. Because, okay, if you really compare, if you want to compare Karen Handel to anything in the past, it's 2014. It's not 2016, it's 2014, where she technically she earned a slightly smaller, actually, I mean, her vote share was much smaller, but her total vote was not much smaller than Tom Price's. Okay? And much more people went out to vote for Jon Ossoff than they did for this nobody, Rodney Stuxbury and Robert G. Monagle. So that's enough for the explanation on this race. So I mean, let's get back to the important points here. First of all, nobody's even talking about the South Carolina race, which the Democrats didn't even try to contest. They had another Goldman Sachs banker running against some faceless Republican, which is the way we're going to have it, unfortunately, until libertarians and conservatives grow a dick and kill Paul Ryan's congressional career and vote him out of office by primarying him. We don't need Paul Ryan, and the answer is not to just get mad at him. It's to sponsor people like his primary opponent who will screw him out of his office and send him back to his preppy home over in Wisconsin, so that you will have real people in office that will vote to repeal Obamacare, repeal it. And that's what I'm getting at now. This is the last race, I believe, until the Utah congressional race that Jason Chaffetz just vacated, or is vacating at the end of the month, which will definitely be held by the GOP. And I think that it sets up the only opportunity. I don't know if they'll take it, because I'm seeing indications to positive and negative indications that they're going to take this opportunity. The GOP has this chance right now to redeem itself to some extent in the eyes of regular people that believe in free market capitalism. They have to press the field and go long. They don't have any more elections to contest until 2018 for the Congress, unless somebody else resigns. And we're going to have to start calling on them to fulfill their end of the bargain. All these things, look, the excuses are over. All these investigations have proven fruitless. Donald Trump has basically disproven all of the bullshit that was fed to us about him not really being able to push an agenda that was acceptable to conservatives. Never mind if he's a conservative himself. I just care about him, giving us the opportunities that we need. I don't care about his inner feelings about it. Okay, because the GOP ideologues like Bill Kristol and Ben Shapiro, they talk a great game. But what have they really done to forward the actual accomplishment of these goals? Not that much. You conservatives, you GOP people, and I consider myself definitely in the conservative category. The GOP, I will never consider myself GOP. The Republican Party has just been a complete train wreck. But one of the reasons that it has been is that they promote these leaders like Bush and his brother Jeb, who talk about their conservative ideals, but it really is all talk. They're basically conservative versions of Hillary Clinton. They talk about their values. They talk about their compassionate conservatism and whatever. It's a fraud. The Bush era Republican Party has to be completely dismantled and replaced by a different party, a different alternative. And what's happening among Trump supporters in the Republican Party, I think, is, it's about as positive a development as you can have right now. We don't need more people like the GOP. I mean, we don't need more people that are Paul Ryan hacks in Congress. So basically, what I'm saying is there has to be an internal revolution within the Republican Party in order for it to actually have a future beyond 2018, and to have the support of the vast majority of conservatives. At some point, if these clowns don't produce, then people will start voting for Democrats or just not coming to vote at all, which is, I've always said, that's a perfectly acceptable reaction to these utter failures, these career losers like Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. Our reaction should always be, screw you. We don't care if you're winning elections and the GOP is in control of Congress. We don't need the GOP to be in control of Congress. We need the public statement to be in control of Congress. It's all fine and dandy when you have these overweight, out of shape losers showing up at the House of Representatives and pretending that they're these great people helping America and whatever. And what they're really there for is to take lobbyist money and spread the cash around and help their buddies. And I think that's true of both parties. And I'm not letting them off the hook there. What the GOP has to do is repeal Obamacare, pure and simple. And it's not just on Ryan. It's also Mitch McConnell has to do it. Has to do it. If he does not do it, then he has no purpose to be in the party. To be the head of the Senate caucus or whatever, Senate Majority Leader. So then after that would have to be the tax reform issues. And basically they have to start promoting, some of these educational initiatives that Trump is advocating, some of these, ideas with the HBCUs, which, they might not be theoretically what Republicans have traditionally supported, but think about it this way: with the renewal of Black America, the New Deal with Black America, can be influenced by free market ideas. We can offer them a lot of ideas, small business aid, and even the housing crisis. There's all these ideas about how best to convert abandoned buildings for the occupancy of low-income people. It happens. They take warehouses in the city I live in, and they turn them into loft space. You can do that for low-income people. The problem is that you need a way to do it with as little red tape and waste as possible. So they should get on it. And finally, the biggest loser of this race isn't Jon Ossoff. The biggest loser would be Tom Perez. He's gone through a rough first few months as head of the DNC. Look, I've seen the videos of him acting like a complete lunatic and idiot. And I'll tell you one thing, I feel for the guy because he was thrust into a thankless position. Nobody's going to accept him or his, his positions. He's basically a puppet of the Hillary wing of the party, Hillary/Obama wing of the party, who was sent to control and deflect the suggestions of the Bernie Sanders wing of the party, as represented by his deputy chief, Keith Ellison. Well, now, Keith Ellison will be able to angle, coming up, depending what happens on the way forward, because Tom Perez has nothing to run on now, or nothing to campaign for as the head of the DNC. There are no open positions till November. So what's he going to be doing with himself besides going to cities and getting booed off stage for his lack of commitment to progressive ideals? He's in an unenviable position. So I kind of feel for him on a human level, but on the real level, fuck him. He's an idiot. He actually did this what he probably thought was a smart power play by getting Keith Ellison appointed his deputy, a meaningless position that has no power. Let me tell you something. When Tom Perez is going to be basically dragged through the street, figuratively, by the Democratic left as time goes on, but he's not going to be able to control all their anger. Either he's going to have to resign, or he's going to have to delegate more authority to other people. But I'm assuming he's going to resign at some point. Who gets the mantle? The most obvious person would be the deputy chair of the DNC, and there's only one person who holds that position right now, and that's what's this guy's name? Keith Ellison. So once Keith Ellison realizes that he can basically start subverting Tom Perez, the whole party politics thing is going to get a lot more complicated. We're going to see, and if Keith Ellison, for whatever reason, does become the head of the organization, or if Keith Ellison becomes the chair of the DNC, you can expect thousands of Democrats to simply jump ship. He's not nearly as popular as the Bernie Sanders people think he is, and to be quite honest with you, his popularity has eroded since he joined the DNC as the deputy chair. So we'll see what happens. I'm kind of getting droopy and sleepy, if you haven't noticed. Anyway, so if you have any thoughts on this special election or any of the other political topics I just covered today, don't hesitate to comment below. And as you know, we're headed straight towards NFL season, so go Cowboys, even though it's only June. And we'll see you again probably tomorrow night. I'm going to try a live stream.